This is the Oregon Football Report. I am your host, Will Ortner, and I think a lot of people expected us to slow down here on the channel. Obviously, the Oregon Ducks not playing any football right now, but that doesn't mean that there isn't news, because 365 days a year, there is something going on in college football, and it's never been more polarizing. We're going to be talking to you today about the 2026 recruiting class. The final rankings have come out from Rivals. We'll be talking about where the Oregon football team sits, while also talking about some of the top players. Did players move up in their star rankings? Did some move down? And what could that possibly mean for Oregon later on? We're going to talk about the top 6 schools left for Josiah Molden, the top cornerback in Oregon, the state, as well as basically right in the backyard of the Oregon Ducks, playing over there at Westland. Excited about where he plays the Ducks. We're going to talk about Rashad Streets and where he could potentially land for the Oregon football team. Does look like he was very impressed with his visit to Eugene. And then last, we're going to talk about Huard and not talk about him as a potential opponent, because everyone is so used to Damon or used to Brock, or even to the younger Huard that was up over at UW just a couple of years ago. We're going to be talking about Titus Huard and what he thought of Eugene on his visit down to talk about Oregon football. Make sure that you hit that thumbs up button on today's video if you want Oregon's 2026 season to be successful, not just in the offseason, not just in spring ball, but throughout the entire year. Make sure you go in and hit that thumbs up button on today's video. Does it really help? Maybe a little bit, maybe not a ton, but it is something that is pretty freaking cool. When we look at Rivals' latest and final rankings for the 2025 recruiting class, you can see right now the Oregon football team, they ended up in 3rd. USC number 1, Notre Dame number 2, and Oregon right there at 3. I thought Oregon had a pretty darn good recruiting class, and I think that the Rivals industry thought so as well. I guess I should say 2026 class. My apologies. With this Oregon football team, the fact that they are competing for that number 1 spot with the likes of a Notre Dame, a Georgia, Bama, Texas, Miami, man, that's just so freaking cool. When you look at the 32 top recruits in the nation, not only were the Oregon Ducks in on a multitude of these players, the Ducks even ended up having a couple of guys who ended up on that list. And we're going to go through the 2 players that are on that list, while also going through a couple of other guys that, frankly, I think should have been on that list. One athlete that I just think the world of. The guy who comes in at the number 14 spot for Rivals is wide receiver Jalen Lott. Now, if you've been living under a bridge, or maybe you're not really getting all that into recruiting news around the Oregon football team, this kid is going to be unbelievable in Eugene. He has been absolutely fantastic this year, moving up and up in the rankings, finally earning himself a 5-star spot. We talked about him earlier on this season and earlier on in 2026 about how well Lott was doing in the Polynesian Bowl, one of the 3 big bowl games for high school recruits. I just can't say enough about the kid. He is strong at the point of attack. He can go up and high point a ball. He's fast. He runs crisp routes. He will be the next great Oregon Duck wide receiver. Jalen Lott is that freaking good. Now, unfortunately, he's not going to hit campus until later on this year. He wasn't one of the early enrollees, but man, oh man, do I think very highly of Jalen Lott. Next player that we have to talk about also on that list is offensive lineman Immanuel Iheanacho. Kid is an absolute stud, has all the potential to be talked about like how we talk about Penei Sewell. Another 5-star offensive lineman. He just moved up into the rank of 5-star, number 21 player in this class. And with the Ducks missing out on Jordan Seaton, I do think there is a potential for Iheanacho to come in and be a starter for this Ducks team. Now, I still think it is I think it's a long shot. I think when you look at Fox Crater, you look at what Janoris Wilson has been doing, I think that those 2 are probably going to be your starters. Potentially, maybe even Michael Bennett fighting out for a role there as well. But to come in and discount Iheanacho would just be foolhardy. The kid is fast on his feet. He's very flexible, and that's something that you don't typically see from a young offensive lineman. Offensive linemen are like cheese. Takes them a while to age. The fact that Iheanacho is able to hit the ground running could be a big deal for the Oregon football team. Make sure that you hit that sub button. I told you that we have you covered throughout 2026. I frickin' mean that. Right now, we are just 151 subscribers away from 3,000 subscribers on the channel. The bigger that the channel grows, the more fun things that we can do in the offseason, but more importantly, the more fun things that we can do during the 2026 college football season. You liked when we went live and did watch parties? We will be able to do more and more of those if there are more subscribers on the channel. Makes it easier for me to go to my bosses and say, we need to be live as much as possible. So come in, hit that sub button if you love the Oregon football team. Next recruit that we got to talk about is Tony Cumberland, defensive lineman, another local kid, another kid in the state of Oregon. Had a fantastic year this year. Another edge rusher. I love that the Ducks are going after local talent. In my eyes, I want as many local players to come in to the University of Oregon and become absolute stars. When you have a guy like a Justin Herbert or a Bryce Betcher reach their full potential, it just means more in the community. But it also shows that Oregon doesn't let recruits in the state of Oregon or even really in the state of Washington get away from them. If you're a top name recruit, if you're a big time recruit and you're in that area, Oregon puts a fence around you, make sure that you stay in-house. Excited to see what Cumberland can do, and he's joining another very talented edge class and D-line class for the Oregon football team. Next guy we got to talk about is the number 2 wide receiver on the Oregon football recruiting class, and that, of course, is Messiah Hampton, a guy who, unfortunately for himself, kind of fell a little bit in these rankings. Hey, guess what? He's still better than I ever was, and any of the rest of us ever probably will be. Another kid that has worked his way on to the scene, does a fantastic job, crisp routes, can go up and high point a ball, and another player that will just add into this offensive system. And I think when you look at everything that Hampton can be and what this offense does a really great job of is getting athletes the ball in space. Hampton can very easily be the next version of that. When you look at the combo between a Jalen Lott and a Messiah Hampton, I think the world is really going to be impressed in what this recruiting class at that wide receiver position can do. Are you happy with the 2026 recruiting class? Let me know down below in the comment section, yes or no. I know there's a lot of people that like to joke that the Oregon football team always wins the recruiting class, but then doesn't get it done on the field. I think that this class will help take Oregon to that next level where not only are they getting it done in the recruiting class, but they're also getting it done on the field. Last player that I want to talk about is tight end Kendre Harrison. To me, he is the freakiest athlete of all. Harrison is going to play on the Oregon football team while also playing on the Oregon basketball team as well. He is the type of player that can go and high point a ball from that tight end position. He's going to be a clear red zone target. And it does feel like Oregon is starting to turn a little bit into tight end U. When you go from a guy like T. Ferg right into Kenyon Sadiq, now you're going over to JJ at that next starting position. Could Kendre Harrison be that next athletic freak? Can he be that next tight end? And I do think it is important that Oregon is becoming tight end U. Now, there's a lot more players that are on that list that I didn't get to talk about. Tommy Tofi as well, fantastic player. Excited to see what he's going to do at that O-line position. But it is time to kind of pivot and look at the 2027 recruiting class. In particular, a player that has to be kept in-house, a player that has to be kept in the state of Oregon. Josiah Molden, he actually did go on a visit with the Oregon football team, and he is a player that I believe Oregon has to sign in that 2027 class because he is a star in the making. Now, he's down to his final 6 schools, USC, UW being the other 2 local area schools that, of course, are playing a role here. Texas, Ohio State, and Miami also in the running for Molden. I'll tell you this right now, when you have the pedigree that Molden has, his father being a great football player, his brother already being in the National Football League, if the Oregon Ducks can clamp in on him and keep him in the state of Oregon, I think you're going to see the secondary rise. I have had the pleasure of being able to call a game for Molden back when he was in the state championship as a freshman. I've never been more impressed with a football player that young that I got to watch and call their game in person. You turn on the tape, he jumps out of the TV screen. I thought I was watching a football player in 3D. He's a special kid. You got to keep him in-house. He's a very, very freaking good player. What are your initial thoughts right now on the Ducks 2027 recruiting class? Obviously, you have a couple of guys who have committed already, Sam Nada being the latest one, son of Haloti Nada. Let me know down below in the comment section that 2027 class is really starting to take shape, and hopefully Molden adds himself to that list. Another guy that I hope adds themselves to that list would be Rashad Streets. I hope that he ends up becoming an Oregon Duck. When you look right now, those are the schools on that picture that Rivals has as kind of the top landing targets. Ohio State, Oregon, Tennessee, Penn State, and South Carolina have all done a great job recruiting Streets and trying to get him into the program. Right now, Streets did have this to say on his latest visit to Eugene, and frankly, he clearly enjoyed his time down with the program. I feel like the staff is really doing a good job trying to make sure my family really enjoys it. They're taking care of my family. They treat my family with a lot of respect, so I really appreciate it. To me, sounds like the family atmosphere is going to get the Oregon Ducks a new freaking commit, because that was Streets' first time coming down to the university with his family. He had a lot to say about how Dan Lanning and the rest of that crew made him feel welcomed, made him feel like he belonged, made it feel like Eugene was going to be his home away from home. And that's why Lanning continues to put in these top recruiting classes for the Oregon football team. This is why the Oregon football team continues to grow. This is why the Oregon football team gets better and better every single year. If the Ducks could add in Streets, a very good edge rusher in the 2027 class, I do think it would be pretty darn electric. Last player that we have to talk about is quarterback Titus Huard. Now, it might be kind of sacrilegious to say that I want a Huard in Eugene after Brock and Damon and the rest of the Huards had so much success at the University of Washington. But the 2028 quarterback did enjoy his time down in Eugene. Now, right now, he is a 3-star quarterback, but there's plenty of time for him to continue to grow. And it does help when his father is a former NFL quarterback. So the fact that Huard came in, really enjoyed his visit, does say something about the University of Oregon, because you know it's going to be hard for Lanning and the rest of that crew to get Huard to want to come to Oregon, because he grew up his whole life probably supporting his father. And his father played for the Rivals up north. If Oregon's able to bring in Titus Huard, I do think you would see a gigantic type of changing of the guards and mindset. Might be easier to go up into Seattle and recruit some of the top players up there as well. Continue to win the offseason. This Oregon football team has stacked year after year after year of great recruiting classes. And I understand that some Duck fans and a lot of other rivals around college football, around the Big Ten, around the Pacific Northwest, are tired of hearing, hey, the Oregon Ducks are continuing to recruit well and continuing to win the offseason without seeing the national championship. This is the brick-by-brick mentality. Right now, Dan Lanning is building a foundation, but he's also starting to put up the walls of the structure of what will be, I guess in this metaphor, a house. And that house will, of course, be the Oregon football program. Right now, the Ducks are closer than they've ever been to winning a national championship, but it's going to continue to have to be built through high school recruiting classes. Not everyone can do what Curt Cignetti did this year and just get a bunch of transfer players. In fact, I think that that's going to eventually catch up to Curt Cignetti. You cannot rely year in and year out on the transfer portal. You have to build a strong foundation, and that's what Dan Lanning is doing. And you've seen year after year, the Oregon football team continue to get better and better under Lanning. It's only a matter of time before the national championship happens, but for it to happen, you have to continue to win these offseason. If you love the Oregon Ducks, make sure you hit that thumbs up button on today's video. Smash it. Do not forget it. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that sub button. We've got you covered throughout the year of 2026. So do not miss out on your opportunity to hit that thumbs up button and hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video, and Sko Ducks!